This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder of Mosley Wealth Management.
Our mission at Mosley Wealth Management is to help people make sure they never run out of income the rest of their life and they pay as little as they're legally required to pay in taxes.
Since 1995, Tom Mosley and his team have been creating comprehensive, custom financial plans to help you preserve what you've earned and pursue what you've envisioned.
In retirement, a lot of people have built a great lump sum. We call that your lumber yard. But you need a blueprint to put that lumber yard into a plan that you can build a retirement house to live in.
What's on your mind this week, Southern California? The stock market, taxes, inflation, income, Social Security, how to ease into the life of your dreams? Let's discover conservative financial strategies starting right now. This is your Right on the Money Radio Hour with Tom Mosley.
And a very happy weekend to you. You are listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management based right here in Southern California. And I'm your host, Kristin Oakley. We're so glad you're joining us today. Each and every week, Tom and I are committed to providing you with retirement planning solutions. The show is all about you. We want to provide you with a solid financial education so that you can make the best decisions possible with your hard-earned money. This week's conversation is a part 2 to what we started talking about last week. We're going to recap that for you in just a second. But Tom, my friend, always good to be here with you. How are you today?
I am doing well. I'm loving the spring. I like it when it starts getting a little warmer. But you know what I like more than anything else is when the days get longer.
Oh, me too.
You know, I just like being able to get off work and it's daylight when
Yes.
you go outside, and it's daylight an hour later, 2 hours later, sometimes 3 hours later. I just love this time of year. I hope they don't change this where we get the daylight savings time and are able to stay out longer later.
Absolutely. I know. If I don't see the sun, I have issues. So I
Right,
appreciate
right.
being able to see daylight as long as possible. I'm with you on that one. Well, we started last week talking about the extensive list of exceptions to that early withdrawal penalty. What are we talking about here? Well, typically there is a 10% penalty if you withdraw funds from things like your 401k, your 403b, whatever type of workplace retirement plan you may have, and your IRAs if you withdraw that money prior to the age of 59 and a half. But did you know that there is a list of 20 exceptions with a 21st on the way, which we will get to today, that if this exception applies to you, you can go ahead and access these funds prior to age 59 and a half without having to pay the penalty. This is news to a lot of folks, Tom. And I know that, again, share with our listeners why we're having this conversation, because this is something that's been coming up a lot with folks who've come in to meet with you and the team.
Well, one rule you never want to break unless you have to is don't take money out of your retirement plans, but especially before 59 and a half. And so why are you doing 2 shows, Tom, not just one, on taking money out of retirement plans before 59 and a half? Reality sets in, the landscape sets in. With inflation up 25% since 2019, people are needing money. They're needing money for different things, for life and for other things that come about. And if they're under 59 and a half and they don't have other sources, many people more so than normal are going to those 401k plans and IRA plans, and they're taking money out early. And in many cases, Kristin, they're suffering a 10% penalty for that.
Mm-hmm.
And with the downturn in the market this year, it makes it even worse.
Yep.
And with egg prices the way they are, it makes it even worse. And of course, by the time you hear this radio show, egg prices may be back down because things are so volatile. They're all over the place. And so in a time like this, we wanted to do a show. It's extending to 2 shows about if you do need that money, how do we get that money out without having to pay not only taxes, but also a 10% penalty?
Right. And so last week we covered the exceptions that apply to both plans and IRAs. We're going to recap those for you. And then today we're going to dive deeply into the exceptions that apply only to IRAs and the exceptions that only apply to workplace retirement plans. So here is the list, just a quick recap of what we went through last week, which are the list of exceptions that apply to both your workplace retirement plans and your IRAs if you access the money prior to age 59 and a half. Those exceptions were death, disability, 72T, medical expenses if they're over 7.5% of your adjusted gross income, IRS levy. This applies to active reservists if you are going through a birth or adoption, a terminal illness, a federally declared disaster, domestic abuse, or emergency expenses. And again, there's so much more that goes into each one of these exceptions. If you want to listen to the entire conversation where Tom and I dove deeply into each one of these last week, we encourage you to go to our website, mosleywealthmanagement.com. You can actually access all of our previous radio show episodes, right, Tom? And folks can listen in and see what they missed.
That's right. You can see radio, television, all the things that we do on there. And you can see what Kristin and I look like, because you can't see that over the radio. You might want to do that for Kristin, but not me. So you just look at that part of it. But you also can go on there to our YouTube channel. We've got almost 150 YouTube episodes on there. We're really into making sure that you get educated on the things you need to be educated about.
Yes, for sure. All right. Well, now we are going to talk about the exceptions that apply to only IRAs. And these exceptions also, we should point out, include if you have a SEP IRA or a simple IRA. That's another important distinction. I know you work with folks who have both.
Right, we do. A lot of times people are self-employed or they're employed in a small company and they provide different things like that. So any kind of IRAs, these rules that we're going to talk about, I think there's 3 of them. We're going to talk about 3 ways you can take money out of an IRA, but you can't take money out of a 401k for these things.
Yes. All right. So first up on the list, again, these are the exceptions that only apply to IRAs. Higher education expenses.
Yes, you can take out for higher education. If you've got a son or daughter going to college, it used to take an arm and a leg. Now it takes an arm and 2 legs. So, instead of drawing that money, if you haven't saved for college, you don't have money set aside for that. You're just paying as you go. And you may not want to take out a Parent Plus loan. You may want to go to your IRA if you're an IRA owner, and it can apply to you if it's your IRA, because the I, it's really important to notice this, the I of individual retirement account, that is in the name of an individual. So that individual or family members, certain family members, immediate family members. Now, it's not the third cousin once removed, but it is the wife, husband, son, daughter. There are ways to pay for that. And I believe there's also grandchildren. You can pay for higher education expenses out of your IRA if you are the owner of your IRA.
This is a huge one. I feel like this could be a game changer for a lot of folks who aren't aware that this exception exists.
Well, you take somebody if they're to the point where they're 73 and they've got a grandchild going to college, and I've got one scenario like that, and they're taking their required minimum distribution. They're required to take money out and pay the tax on it,
right?
But they're taking that money out and they're paying for their grandchild to go to college. Now that's over 59 and a half.
Right.
We're talking if you've got a grandchild and you're under 59 and a half and you want to help in some ways and you've really been prosperous in that IRA that you've got, you could take money out to pay for them out of your IRA. So be careful, check it out. Mm-hmm. Make sure it's the right family member. Make sure you got the right relationship there. Make sure it's your IRA. But higher education expenses can be paid for out of an IRA.
Next up on our list of exceptions that only apply to IRAs, First-time home buyers. And this is a big one, Tom, especially in today's economic climate.
Yeah, I can't believe how many people are over 50 and coming in there saying we want to buy our first home. In fact, I have a couple right now. They're 68 and they're looking to buy their first home. Well, they're over 59 and a half, so taking money out of the IRA won't cause a penalty. But if you're under 59 and a half and you want to take some money out of your IRA, not your plan, not your 401k, not your 403b, then you may be able to take out a lifetime cap of $10,000 and add that to your down payment. Hey, that could make a difference. It could pay closing costs. It could help you in lots of ways. Again, first-time home buyers under 59 and a half, lifetime cap of $10,000. Make sure and take advantage of that if you're looking for money to add to what you're collecting to buy that first home.
And finally, the last exception we have that applies here on the list to only IRAs is health insurance if you are unemployed.
59 and a half and younger, if you are unemployed and you want to maintain your health insurance, which the older you are, the more important it is for you to have health insurance coverage, you can, pretty straightforward here, you can take your premiums out of your IRA and pay for that health insurance. So check that out. Don't go without. I should make a shirt with that slogan. Check it out. Don't go without, because you definitely need to have that health insurance coverage. And usually it's COBRA'd, and COBRA sometimes is a little bit higher and it costs you about 10% more, maybe 20% more than regular coverage, but you don't want to go without health insurance, and your family doesn't need to go without health insurance if you are unemployed. You can take it out of the IRA, but you can't take it out of your 401k. So many little things here. We had that list last week. We got the list so far this week. The next segment, we're going to talk about what can come out of plans, but they can't come out of IRAs. The things we've talked about this time, higher education, first-time home buyer, health insurance, it can come out of IRAs, but can't come out of plans. Make sure you know the rules. Make sure you're working with somebody who's a real financial planner and doesn't get you penalized when you take money out of your 401k or your IRA.
And again, one of the things that really sets Tom and the team of Mosley Wealth Management apart is that they are master elite advisors with 𝗙𝗏, who stays up to date on all these different tax rules and exceptions. And this is why it's so important to make sure you're working with someone who's knowledgeable and knows the ins and outs. We know that a lot of this might be new information to you. The good news is it's not new to Tom and the team of Mosley Wealth Management, and they are here to help and serve you. But you have to reach out, and you can schedule your time to come in and receive your very own complimentary retirement blueprint by calling 888-930-5609. Stay with us. When we come back, we're going to go through the next list we have for you, which is the exceptions that apply only to your workplace retirement plans. Stay with us.
Stock market losses have you worried? Claim your free portfolio risk report and protection review from Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management. 888-930-5609. If the recent market volatility has you worried about your retirement investments, you're not alone. Right now is the time to take action to protect your investments. Surely markets do not always rise, but if you are in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, you don't have the same time to make up for portfolio losses as you did in your 30s and 40s. Claim your free portfolio risk report from Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management. 888-930-5609. Your portfolio risk report will provide action steps of what you could do to protect your wealth from current market swings. Get your free portfolio risk report right now. Call financial advisor Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management. 888-930-5609.
For your own no-cost retirement blueprint, call Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management, 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Welcome back, Southern California. You're listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley. If you're just tuning in and joining us, Tom and I are continuing our conversation today around the extensive list of exceptions that apply if you are to withdraw money from your workplace retirement plans and your IRAs prior to the age of 59 and a half. A lot of folks aren't aware of these exceptions. That's why we want to provide solid education around them. And again, with the disclaimer, Tom, of don't try this at home on your own because there's so many ways that they can go wrong, correct?
Right. It can blow up on you. And when it blows up, the government is not concerned because you pay for the collateral damage. And that would be in the way of penalties.
Right. And of course, the tax that you owe too. So
Yes.
we want to make sure that you are very well aware. And that's why we say don't try these at home. But it's important for folks to understand that these exceptions do exist. It's time now for us to go through the list of the exceptions that only apply to your workplace retirement plans. So for you, that could be a 401k, a 403b, a 457, TSP, plans of that nature. So first up on our list of exceptions, age 55. And I know there's a lot of confusion around age 55, so let's talk about it.
Well, there's two ways to get money out of your employer plan once you reach the age of 55. Number one, you could separate from service in the year that you turn age 55 or older. In other words, you're at least 55, you're no longer working there, then you can move that 401k and you can actually, or 403b, and you can actually take money out without a 10% penalty. The other way to get money out, you say, well, I'm still working there. We mentioned this last week in our show. You can do an in-service distribution. In other words, you can take that money out. And this time you can't take it out and spend it though, but you can take it out and move it over into a retirement blueprint plan. In other words, you might be able to move it into an IRA that might be a part of an income vehicle that will start paying you income for the rest of your life once you retire, or an investment vehicle that you can control the investments more than you can in your 401k, or an investment vehicle that's a little bit safer than maybe some of the options you have in your 401k or your 403b. So it's not just at 59 and a half that you begin to get options, but we're talking about, particularly on this show, taking money out of those employer plans. At 55, you can take money out without a penalty, but you must separate from service at that point.
So that's one you really want to make sure you get right. We use a lot of football analogies on this show. You don't want to fumble the ball that close to this important age range, right?
Right.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, next up on our list of exceptions, age 50 or 25 years of service for public safety employees. This is an interesting one.
Yeah, about 1 out of 6 of you out there have some kind of public employment, public kind of retirement for public safety employees. We're talking about, law enforcement officers, because so many of them start their career in their 20s and they might work for 30 years and they're just 50 and they're retiring and they're not done yet. So it's a little bit the same as above, except the earlier of the age 50 or 25 years of service, not 55, but if you're a public safety employee and you turn 50 or you've worked for 25 years, and it's only applicable to certain groups of workers. So this is where when somebody's working with us and they say, what? And you may be saying, based on what Kristin read to you and I read to you from some of the details of this particular option, you may be saying still, what? Well, we may be looking at it and saying, what? So that's why when somebody comes in, they're working with us, many times what we do, Kristin, to find this one out, we get on the phone with you right here in our office and we call that public safety office, the human resources side of that, and we just start asking questions. And we don't know the answer to all of these, but we can give you all of the questions. And many times what people find is valuable is to work with us, and that public safety employee, they just call with us on the line and they say, here, talk to my advisor. You have permission. And they'll check us out, make sure we have permission. You have given them permission so that they can talk to us, is what we're trying to say. And they actually talk to us and we ask them the questions, because even while we're asking that question, a follow-up question that goes a little deeper, clarifies a little more based on 30 years of experience, goes into force, and we're able to really get to the bottom of it, because your plan and your certain group of workers and certain group of plans, it's really important to know every benefit you possibly can get. So are you over 50 and you're a public safety employee? Then maybe you could qualify. If you've worked at least 25 years, maybe you could qualify to take money out of your plan without paying a penalty.
Important to know for sure. And if you're just tuning in and joining us again, Tom and I are currently going through the list of exceptions that are applicable only to workplace retirement plans if you withdraw money prior to the age of 59 and a half. These are exceptions to that early 10% withdrawal penalty. Next up on the list, Section 457B, which are the governmental plans. And this is interesting that withdrawals from these plans are always penalty free. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true once you reach the right age, okay? Or once you retire. There's some 457s that you can't take the money out until you retire. There's some you can take them out at 55, some at 59 and a half. What does your plan say? Well, that's where we got to start asking the questions. We got to start probing around. We got to find out. But once you're able to take the money out, then we have to find out, is there a penalty for taking it out? And most of the time, there's never a penalty for taking it out. They're always withdrawal free. But, Kristin, you have to hit the level. You have to either retire or hit 55, 59 and a half, some 65. You just have to hit the right button. All of them are written a little bit differently. They're a governmental plan. So don't be surprised that they're confusing and hard to understand. Again,
Right.
They're a governmental plan.
Yes, important to know. All right, next up on the list, divorce. And there's something known as a 𝗲𝗲𝗀. Am I referencing that acronym correctly?
Qualified Domestic Relations Order. That's where a judge or a court makes an order. They issue an order that in the splitting up of property, X amount of that IRA, that 401k that we're talking about now, the 401k for sure, that 401k, then that goes to the spouse, and the other side of the divorce, the other spouse receives half of it. Here's what I've seen. There's not that any of you would do this, but sometimes out there are people going through a divorce, and in going through a divorce, they or their attorney try to strong arm the other side. And they say, well, here, let me just take the money out of the 401k, do a withdrawal, and give you half of it. And then you're stuck sometimes, and they calculate the tax that would come out, and they calculate the 10% penalty, and it's a way of really diminishing what you finally get. And it's a strong arm tactic. Wait, just be patient with that. Wait until a judge or a court gives you a qualified domestic relations order or a 𝗲𝗲𝗀𝗀. Then once you have a 𝗲𝗲𝗀𝗀, you sometimes have access to those funds, and they'll actually move those over into your name. And many times you have penalty-free access if the money is needed from those funds while they're still in the plan. It's in your name. It moves over to your name. You say it sounds confusing. It is confusing. Every 𝗲𝗲𝗀𝗀 is a little bit different because it's working with a plan that's a little bit different. So you've got two variables that you're working with. So that's where you need to work with somebody like we have, where we've gone through. We actually have an attorney. With your permission, we send that 𝗲𝗲𝗀𝗀 to them, and we say, what can we do with getting this money out of a 401k from an ex-spouse? And we get it out the right way, and such a way that's not going to cost you an arm and a leg and an arm just to get that money out. So you need to do it right, because the IRS is very unforgiving for mistakes. And if you've got a 𝗲𝗲𝗃𝗀, I would say talk to us before you go into that 𝗲𝗲𝗃𝗀. You need somebody who's going to be on your side. And a lot of times those, quote, peaceable divorces aren't really all that peaceable, because you're getting the wool pulled over your eyes in many cases, because you don't understand really what you're getting yourself into.
And I just want to take this opportunity to point out that I know you have helped a lot of folks who have been blindsided by divorce, who are navigating through that. We know it's such a challenging time emotionally, mentally, but it's also a challenging time financially. But you and the team meet each one of these scenarios with such care and compassion. So if someone's listening and going through that right now, what special words of encouragement do you have for them?
Wherever you are, just stop and admit where you are and get somebody who's going to help dig you out. And, we've had people, I think the most popular story is a lady who came out of a divorce with $38,000 12 years ago. She now has over $1 million in her retirement plans. She just bought a $1.5 million home and paid almost all of it off with money she had saved. And she's got a job making $150,000 a year, all because, according to her own testimony, she listened to our coaching. Is it valuable? Yes. You say, well, I don't know if I can afford that. This lady had $38,000. We work with people with 38 million and 38,000. So somewhere in between, we can help you build a plan for the rest of your life. But you've got to pick up the phone and call.
And that number to call is 888-930-5609. You don't have to go through these things alone. The team of Mosley Wealth Management would love to be able to help and serve you and provide you with your very own complimentary retirement blueprint. 888-930-5609 is the number to call to schedule yours. Stay with us. We'll be back with this important conversation and finish out our list of exceptions to this early penalty withdrawal right after this.
You've heard the phrase, you don't know what you don't know, and we believe it's especially true when it comes to retirement planning. There's a lot of information out there, and it can be overwhelming and confusing. So how do you know what you don't know? Social Security, RMDs, estate planning, investment risk. These are just a few of the many areas that a financial advisor can help you navigate. But what else don't you know about retirement planning? Are you aware of all of the tax implications of your investments? Do you know how to optimize your Social Security benefits? What about your long-term care and estate planning needs? We believe that by working with a retirement planning advisor, you can uncover potential blind spots in your financial plan and gain a better understanding of your options. Don't let unknown factors potentially derail your retirement. Take control and work with a financial advisor who can help you work towards planning out a comfortable retirement. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management today to uncover what you may not know about your retirement future and start your complimentary retirement blueprint. Call 888-930-5609.
Do you know how you'll generate income from your investments along with your Social Security in retirement? In our opinion, it's never too early to start the income planning process for your future. An income plan can help you work towards creating a steady stream of income to support you throughout your retirement years. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Take control today and start income planning for your retirement. Call the team at Mosley Wealth Management so we can help you design a complimentary written income plan to help you live the retirement you've always wanted. Call 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management. Get your own no-cost complimentary retirement plan review. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Welcome back, Southern California. You're listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management, and I'm your host, Kristin Oakley. Going back to our list of exceptions that are applicable only to workplace retirement plans. Again, this is if you are trying to withdraw money from your workplace retirement plan prior to the age of 59 and a half. There are some exceptions so that you don't have to pay that early 10% withdrawal penalty. We've got two more on our list here, Tom. First up is phased retirement distributions from federal plans.
Yeah, this one, I'm just going to touch on it briefly. It is very complex. What it does, it allows full-time employees to begin to work a part-time schedule, while in some cases they can begin to draw their retirement benefits, including money from their 403b, their 401k, their 457. So a phased retirement distribution from some of those federal plans could be allowable. Again, this is where we get on the phone, we talk to your HR people. They'll know when it's a federal issue. And I have some other advisors in the industry that are not local here, and they're in Denver, Colorado, and other places, and they are so well versed when it comes to federal plans. We're able to get you expert advice. Remember, we don't know everything. Okay, but we can find people who do know everything. So if you want to go from full-time to part-time and you're a federal employee, maybe we can help you.
Important to know for sure. And then finally on our list here is pension-linked savings accounts.
Yeah, now those are limited to $2,500, and it's an optional feature that's added on to some 401k plans, some pension plans. If you've got a pension, you've got a 401k, one or the other or both, there may be ways to get a limit of up to $2,500. So those things are crucial, that those are exceptions for plans only. And a lot of those have to do with government plans. So you've got to understand, and you know, when I have a Social Security class, I always ask people, how many of you have a pension plan? And you know, maybe a third of the crowd will go up now. And then I'll say, how many of those are government pensions? And only 3 or 4 or 5 will go up because the government pensions are the major ones that are still out there, you know. So you need to know how those government plans work. And again, if we don't know, we can find people who do.
Well, Tom, hard to believe we have now, between last week's conversation and what we've talked about so far today, we have been through the list of the current 20 exceptions to this early withdrawal penalty. Last week's conversation, we covered the exceptions for both workplace retirement plans and IRAs. Today, we've talked about only IRAs, the exceptions that only apply to those accounts, and the exceptions that only apply to workplace retirement plans. And we should highlight, if you missed last week's conversation and you want to go back and listen to that, you can also access previous radio show episodes, including last week's, by visiting the website, mosleywealthmanagement.com.
Hey, do we have time for an encore?
What do you mean?
An exception number 21.
That's what I was going to highlight. Yes, this is an exception that is coming up, a 21st on the way by the end of this year. So yes, go for it.
December 29th of 2025. Congress has actually done something ahead of schedule rather than behind schedule. They have told us that in law already, for plans only, it applies to premium payments for certain long-term care policies. Okay? So if you've got a long-term care policy, or potentially to help you get a long-term care policy, hang on, as a friend of mine in Alabama says, only he says it, hang on, you know, like that. December, you know my friend. I know, you know my friend. December the 29th of this year, for plans only, that's 401ks, premium payments for certain long-term care expenses could be taken out of 401ks if you're under 59 and a half. So hang on, as Don Cloud says in Huntsville, Alabama, that will be coming to you very, very soon.
Yes, important to be prepared for that, and you'll cross that bridge when you get to it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or jump off that bridge, right?
No, I like crossing better.
Yes.
All right. Well, now we need to talk about who can use the 10% penalty exception. And, you know, it's interesting because we've gone through this extensive list. Again, in order to figure out if this applies to you, the best way is going to be to come in and sit down and meet with your team one-on-one. But what do you want to really stress as we talk about who these things apply to?
Well, some of them apply only to the account owner, the IRA owner, or the 401k owner. And some of the things are extended to family members. Now, for example, there was a story Ed Slott was telling us about that this gentleman took money out of his IRA to help himself and his wife through a disability that she had. Well, the IRS disallowed that.
Right.
Because it was not his disability and ruled that he should have taken the money out of an IRA in her name. So when it comes to disability, it has to be in only the account owner's name. In fact, some of the exceptions that we've talked about in the last two shows that apply only to the account owner are the birth exception, where if you have a child born, or adoption exception, or if there's a terminal illness exception, or an active reservist, or the age 55, and also the 72T substantially equal payments exception. All of those have to be the account owner only. Okay. So in other words, if you're going to take that exception, it has to be your account. But there's some other exceptions that are applicable to the account owner and certain family members. For instance, the higher education exception, taking that money out of the IRA, that will apply to the owner, the spouse, the child, the grandchild of either the owner or the spouse. So nephews, cousins, siblings, sorry, you're out of luck there. Okay, the higher education, only the owner, spouse, child, grandchildren. First-time home buyer, you want to help your relative get into a home. That applies to the owner, the spouse, the child, and the grandchildren, but nobody else, okay? And so you just got to look, the medical exceptions, the owner, the spouse, and dependents that are on the tax return. The domestic abuse exception, that applies to the owner, the child, and another family member that's living in the household. And that financial emergency from plans and from IRAs, that's available for family member emergencies, not just those of the account owner. So before you get ready to do one of those, this is where you need to get advice. And you need to, and it's like in carpentry where you want to measure twice and cut once. You want to get advice and then verify that advice. Don't just take it from Bubba the plumber. Get it from a financial advisor. That's why we're here to help you. Call us. We'll be glad to help you work through all of these tax plans so that you can get to your money when you need it.
And that number to call to schedule your complimentary retirement blueprint is 888-930-5609. Again, this is for no cost, no charge, no obligation. The team of Mosley Wealth Management would love to be able to help and serve you, but you have to reach out and call, and you can do so today by calling 888-930-5609. When we come back, what about these super catch-up contributions? Tom and the team are getting a lot of questions about that. If you are between the ages of 60 and 63, you're definitely not going to want to miss this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this. Are you worried that you waited too late to start your retirement planning? That you waited too late to start saving? At Mosley Wealth Management, we believe it's never too late to start planning for your future. We can help you develop a personalized retirement plan that is tailored to your current needs and goals. The team at Mosley Wealth Management will sit down with you and provide an evaluation of your current path, including your investment strategy, tax planning, and risk management approach. We'll help you identify potential areas for improvement and work with you to create a retirement plan that is designed to help you work towards having financial security and peace of mind in retirement. It's not too late for you to get started with Mosley Wealth Management. Call us today to schedule your complimentary retirement planning session. We believe we can help you get on the path to financial security and peace of mind in retirement. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management to get started on your own complimentary retirement blueprint. Call 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Get your retirement right on the money with Tom Mosley. Call 888-930-5609 for your no-cost appointment. 888-930-5609.
Welcome back. You're listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley, and we love being able to share with you things on this show that a lot of folks aren't aware of. And this next conversation, Tom, I have been chomping at the bit to have this conversation with you because there's something that changed at the beginning of 2025. They introduced what are known as super catch-up contributions, which apply to folks who are ages 60 through 63. We're going to answer now the top 12 questions regarding these super catch-up contributions. But the reason I've been so excited to talk to you about this is you were the first person I learned about this from when the change happened because of your extensive training and knowledge. But as I have talked with other financial advisors throughout the country, most of them have not been aware of this change. And I've been the one educating them as a result of what I've learned from you. So I think it's a very important conversation. This is a huge opportunity for folks to make great strides in their retirement saving. So first up, let me just have you explain, what do these super catch-up contributions, what are they all about?
Well, they're catch-up contributions you can make to your retirement plan and also to simple IRA plans, okay? Simple IRA participants, and you have to be age 60 to 63. Now, I hear you, and you will, as we go through these, start asking the question, and I can hear it coming back through the radio, why? I have no earthly idea the answer to that, okay? They just out of the clear blue came with these super catch-up contributions. You've always, this year, anybody can make, if you're over 50, a $7,500 catch-up contribution. But if you're the ages of 60 to 63 this year, then you can make these catch-up contributions that are super. And so we put together 12 questions with the help of Ed Slott and his group, where I'm a master elite advisor. And let's just go through them.
Yes, perfect. And I do want to highlight, so the catch-up contributions previously were only available to people who were over age 50. Those are different amounts. But once you hit this new age range of 60 through 63, this is the new catch-up contribution that applies to you. So first up, question that we have, when does the super catch-up contribution rule, when did it become effective?
It became effective this year. You've never heard of it before. You know, I love it on television where whatever news you're watching, they're having breaking news.
Right.
And it might have broken 48 hours ago, but it's still listed as breaking news. And it might not be very consequential at all, but it's breaking news, okay? This is really breaking news. It just started this year in 2025. And, you know, a lot of times we talk about things on this show that people are asking us about.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the things, Kristin, where, you know, people aren't asking about this because they don't even know about it. I think you mentioned during the break that even some of the other advisors that you work with on their radio and television, they don't know about it.
Right. I've had to take this information to them and said, did you know that this is now available? So, yeah.
Right.
Yep. All right. So second question, is the super catch-up contribution only available for 2025?
No, it's supposed to continue starting this year, but for following years as well.
Which is exciting news for sure. Now, to which plans does it apply?
Okay, here's the catch. It applies to 401ks, 403bs, and 457s. It also applies to simple IRA plans. However, what's not on that list, it does not apply to traditional or to Roth IRAs. So 401ks, 403bs, 457s, simple IRA plans. Say, mine's pretty simple. No, that's not what it means. Does it say simple IRA, then it does apply, but it doesn't apply to that regular IRA or the Roth IRAs.
Important to know that distinction for sure. Now, are those plans that do allow it, are they required to offer it?
No. No, the super catch-up is optional for those plans to offer. So if you've got a 401k, 403b, 457, before you get all excited about it, a call to your human resources department or a call to the person in charge of your 401k, 403b, 457 is your first call. Do you offer the super catch-up contribution? They may not even know what it's about, okay? They may not even know what it's about, but you got to go to the mat with this to find out if they offer it.
Now, who is eligible for the super catch-up?
Okay. Participants in the covered plan that will accept it and offer it who turn either 60, 61, 62, or 63 during this year, next year, during that year, the ages of 60, 61, 62, 63. For instance, if you're 59, you turn 59 this year, you're not eligible. You turn 60 this year, you're eligible. You turn 63 this year, you're eligible. But next year, you'll be turning 64. You're not eligible next year. So it's, again, it's Congress put it together. That's the why, okay? 60, 61, 62, 63.
Okay, so if someone turns 60 during this year, they can still contribute the full super catch-up, right? Because the limit's not prorated in the year that you turn 60. So, for example, if you turn age 60 on July 1st of this year and your plan offers that super catch-up, you can actually contribute up to the full limit for 2025, not just half of the full limit. So that's important to know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter when you turn 60, 61, 62, or 63, January 1st or December 31st or any parts in between. You're eligible for the full catch-up amount.
But if you turn age 64 during the year, you're not eligible. And that's the case even if you don't turn age 64 until December 31st. So again, important to know the ins and outs of these rules.
Yeah, that's number 7. You got it right there. We were just going through these questions one by one. If you turn 64 this year, you're not eligible.
Yeah. And you already addressed this at the beginning. You know, why did they make it ages 60, 61, 62, and 63? Well, that's the one question we can't answer. No one seems to know why Congress settled on those ages. I don't even have an answer for that.
No answer whatsoever. It's just life.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Now, we touched on this, but we can't stress this enough. Question number 9, is the super catch-up in addition to or instead of the regular catch-up provision for ages 50 and older?
It is instead of. So you either have, if you say, well, my plan doesn't offer it, I've already asked, then you can catch up an extra $7,500 this year. Anybody can.
If you're over 50.
If you're over 50, right, you're over 50 catch up. But if your plan does accept it, then you're eligible for the full amount that we're going to get into.
Okay, so let's talk about these limits. So what is the 2025 super catch-up limit?
$11,250. So, $7,500 is the normal catch-up that everybody's eligible. And what they do is they multiply that times 150%. So you can catch up if you're 60, 61, 62, 63. You turn those ages this year, you can catch up $11,250.
Which means you could be putting a total away of $34,750 a year into a plan that's eligible if you are age 60, 61, 62, or 63. That can add up really quickly, especially for folks who might have started saving later in life.
Yeah, you can add, if you're 60, 61, 62, 63, that's $34,750 if your plan participates that you can put into your 401k if you have the money to do that this year. And that can really top off your retirement in a big way.
For sure. So this is exciting news for folks who have that, who are those ages, and where it applies to their plan. All right. Now, question number 11, what about simple IRAs?
Okay, Kristin, you have now entered the twilight zone. Okay, I can hear the music in the background because it is
there you go.
It is completely different for simple IRAs. So much so, and there's so many numbers and so many variables and so many, does your plan do this or does your plan do that? I'm not even going to give you numbers on here for simple IRAs, except to tell you, you need to talk to us. You need to get a list of questions that you need to ask your plan, your simple IRA, because they are so crazy. It's unbelievable. I'm just going to tell you, call us. And trust me, you're going to be glad you did, because it's so confusing.
Well, and that brings us to the 12th question we have here on our list, which is, why are the simple IRA catch-up rules so not simple?
Well, that's something you're going to have to ask your congressperson,
Yep.
because they have put it together. I think, and I've heard Ed Slott say this, the problem with setting tax law is many times it's put together by Congress people who don't know anything at all about tax law, and then they leave it up to the courts and the IRS to work things out. So here's the deal. There is a super catch-up contribution rule that is effective if you're 60, 61, 62, and 63. Okay, so you need to find out if your plan has made it eligible for them, and you need to follow up with it.
Absolutely. And again, the best thing that you can do about everything we've talked about today to figure out what applies to your individual personal situation is to come in and sit down and meet with one of the all-star advisors from Mosley Wealth Management in the privacy of their offices to receive your very own complimentary retirement blueprint. Again, this is for no cost, no charge, no obligation. It's simply an invitation to have a conversation to see how they can help and serve you. But you have to be proactive, and you have to pick up the phone and call to schedule that opportunity. That number to call is 888-930-5609. That's all the time we have for this weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you being here. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to being back with you next time here on Right on the Money with Tom Mosley.
Investment advisory services offered by duly registered individuals through Mosley Wealth Management Incorporated. Mosley Wealth Management and Mosley Insurance and Financial Services are affiliated companies by common ownership license number OB61811. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refers to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength, claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This content is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the needs of an individual situation. All hypothetical examples are provided for illustrative purposes only. They do not represent real-life scenarios. Mosley Insurance and Financial Services, nor its agents or representatives, may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any investment decisions. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Some of the information provided may be from one or more third parties, which we believe to be reliable sources, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mosley Insurance and Financial Services.